Hey Wayne,
Hi, Daisy.
thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yes, of course. I'm so excited to be here today.
I am so excited to have you. All right. So, can we just do some super introduction? Can we state your name and your pronouns and kind of just some of your history at the Rose? I know it's been super
I was
long, but just a
about to
little bit of
say,
it.
whoa.
Recent. Let's just do recent.
No, I'm totally fine with going into detail. My name is Wayne Hudson. I go by he, him, his, and I have been going to the Rose since the summer before my sixth grade year. Um,
Me too.
Look, we've been in it together since then, Daisy. But no, I started with the classes, um, specifically the summer camps. I always would go back because they were always so much fun. But then slowly but surely, I started auditioning for the main stage shows, and I've been kind of doing both. I did kind of both the summer camps and the main stage shows, kind of all throughout middle school through my freshman year. And then the past couple years, I've taken a break from the Rose, my sophomore and junior year of high school, to focus on high school activities and things like that. But I'm very thankful and happy to be back both with It's a Wonderful Life and with the high school internship.
That's amazing. And one of those things is why we're here today, and I'm super
Ew.
excited. So, can you talk about your role in It's a Wonderful Life and kind of just, well, first, what the show was, and your role in it? Yeah.
Yeah, well, the show It's a Wonderful Life. It's the Rose's Christmas special this year, winter special this year. It was adapted from the classic holiday movie by Sarah Lynn Brown, who also directed the show, and she was an amazing director, such a very giving person to work with. But the show itself, I played Clarence, who is the angel that goes down to help George in his time of need. So the story basically follows Clarence learning about George's life. It's told mostly through a flashback that their guidance angel Joseph um, is telling Clarence to prepare them to go down and help George, because George is finding himself in a position where he doesn't know if he wants to continue living. So Clarence goes down, and so that was, yeah, that's pretty much them, and I was so happy and excited to play Clarence, and I could talk about Clarence forever.
That's amazing. And so, I don't know if people really knew that real live theater was still going on during the pandemic. So,
I mean,
can you
to
kind
be
of talk about
completely
what
honest,
that
I
was
didn't
like?
I didn't really know either until the opportunity to do the show came to me. So yeah.
Yeah. So do you want to just kind of like talk about how that was for you?
Yeah, well, my experience good getting into the show was a really unique one. I was asked along with another one of our high school interns who ended up being an understudy in our show, Grace. I was asked
Mm.
to do a script reading for it when it was still in development, because they wanted to see how people our age, how youth would react to the show. And I luckily got to read for Clarence, and it was such, like, the second I started reading Clarence's lines, I was like, I would die to be Clarence, because them and I are so much alike. But getting back to the point, the rehearsal process in and of itself was unique from any other show that we've done. Um, that I've done personally too. It was we of course we were fully masked the whole time, and there were a lot more breaks in the process to let the room sit for a little bit, to like sanitize surfaces and high touch points and things like that. And for 2 weeks out of our rehearsal process, we had to go online because our numbers were at
Mm.
a point where it was not safe to be rehearsing, and so the Rose's staff and the admin at the Rose took our health and safety and concern, and we rehearsed over Zoom, which obviously is a very different experience, but it also allowed for us to focus less on blocking and lines and things like that and more on character work. which I think is really evident in the show. Our characters are so developed, and I think it is very clear the work we put into them. So yes, and then about a week before what would have been our opening, we got back on stage and we teched the show. And yeah, and the experience for me also on top of that was really different because for the first week of in-person rehearsals after being out for a couple weeks, um I tested positive for COVID-19. So I couldn't
Mm.
be in the rehearsal space. So we had to have Grace step in, and I would watch rehearsals and take notes until I thankfully I tested negative in a week, and I came back after a couple negative tests. And it was really weird watching someone who is not me play the role that I'm supposed to be playing, but it was also such a great opportunity for everyone in the cast to look at another way of somebody playing a part, and for me to see what else I could be exploring with Clarence. And then I think that only ended up making the show that much more of an enjoyable process to rehearse.
Yeah, wow, that's really amazing. And how did people watch the show?
Yeah. Well, we obviously wanted for people to come see the show live and in person, but we, as a cast and as a crew, and with discussions very close with the staff at the Rose, we decided that it would be better to cancel in person performances. What with the holiday season coming up and with our numbers being so high, we decided it would be just safest to cancel in person performances. But people can still see the show because we recorded it. And so there is a digital version that people can still purchase tickets to. And once they
Mm.
purchase their tickets, I'm pretty sure that they are sent a link that is live for a certain amount of time, as long as the show would be open normally. Um, and they can watch the show that way. And so I'm really excited that our community still has a chance to access it, because I think it can really be a powerful piece of theater, um, should people choose to come buy tickets to see.
Yeah, that's so cool, and it's just really interesting that that's kind of the way our industry is going. And I don't know if it's as bad as people are saying in some ways.
Yeah, I honestly,
And
I'm so thankful that we have the technology that we do, so that people can still have access to live in quotes theater, because it still is live theater, very much very much so live theater, but I'm just very grateful that people can still access it, especially with a story like It's a Wonderful Life at the time that we're living in now. It's very community driven. It's it's very much about finding who you are and what you can do for other people, and holding on to yourself into that, and what you can discover about yourself while helping other people, and that when you put good out into the world, good will almost always come back to you. Um, so yeah, I'm just so thankful that people can experience that for themselves and take whatever other lessons they want from the show. Yeah, I'm just over the moon excited for it to be out and accessible.
yeah, that's super cool. And like I think it's really cool, especially that like so many more people will have access to be able to see it, like even around the country and maybe even around the world. I think that's really
Right.
awesome.
I think that even, and I think that's a very good point to make. I didn't even think about the people who wouldn't normally be able to see it, because I guess we never really think about those who are not able to come into a theater, especially now, those people who might be very high risk of COVID. Now, those people who can see the show. And there was actually a girl in our cast who has a family member who has high risk, so they weren't able to come see the show when we did a small preview, but now they can, because there's a digital version that's coming out. So that's very exciting as well.
Yeah, that's super special.
Mhm.
And um, I know some people might be slightly wary of auditioning maybe for a show during this time, but what advice would you give them if they really wanted to come to the Rose and do that audition and take that interesting theater experience under their wing?
Yeah, I think I totally understand your hesitation. It could be coming from a multiplicity of places. Me personally, I thought art and theater and creation is so important to me that I felt like if I didn't do something while this was all happening to funnel all of the emotions that come with living in the world we live in today into, then I would just go crazy. So I would highly, highly anticipate people to audition for shows once the Rose releases information about auditions. The Rose is one of, if not the safest place that since quarantine and COVID and all these things have happened, it is such a safe place. And you can talk to anybody in the cast and crew. They make it a point to make sure that everyone is involved in decision making when it comes to in-person rehearsals and whether or not we wanted to uh, make this a digital experience rather than an in-person one. The Rose is so good about making sure that everyone is feeling safe and comfortable 100% of the time, and if even one person in the cast is not, then action is being taken to correct that and to make things happen so that everyone can feel safe. So I very much encourage everyone to audition. It is such a loving community, as the Rose always has been, and living under COVID-19, it's no different. If anything, it's even more so. So it's such, and even just doing theater at a time like this, it is such a break from everything going on. Like I felt so lucky to go into a rehearsal space at the end of the day and, like I said, funnel all of that stress and anxiety into something that I felt can do a lot. I think can do a lot of good for our community. So yes, I highly encourage people to audition. It's definitely worth it in my opinion.
That's awesome. All right. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your experience with us. Yeah, I really
Yeah,
appreciate
I'm
it.
so thankful for being given the opportunity. Thank you so much for having
Of course. All
me.
right.
Bye. Have a good
Bye.
day.